Pile All Fiction album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from legendary, a cult favorite out of Boston, Pile, Rick McGuire and company, legendary post-hardcore act out of up there. Like I said, they have had a massive cult following for years, and even if I wasn't into their early work, their demonstration album, I was still at least finding some good ideas at parts. But very shortly after, I too joined the cult following of Pile. Jerk Routine, Magic Isn't Real, these are just two cult classics in modern DIY and post-hardcore, and it showed the band bringing in so many elements, something that they would kind of, do a lot of over the years. There was blistering post-hardcore, there was tear-jerking slowcore, there was some lo-fi mixed in, some folk at times, and their sounds on those albums captivated me from the earliest of early listens. And by the time Dripping came out, Pile was not any longer post-hardcore's best-kept secret. No, they were just pushing the genre forward at that point. And I've always thought that You're Better Than This is one of the band's best projects. Their discography in general, it's very concise. They've always been just very thorough. Now, I did lose sight of them for a little bit around the time of A Hair Shirt Full of Purpose. I just thought it was one of their most mixed bag releases in years, and just the bad on the album outweighed the good, even though I know people love that. But I'm also in the minority of thinking 2019's Green and Grey is one of their best releases. Now, the last time we heard from them was in 2021. Yes, the Songs Known Together Alone album, and this is an album that I did not review on this channel. That is because, I'm going to be perfectly blunt, I didn't even know it came out. I didn't realize this album came out until a few months ago. And then when I listened to it, I kind of wish I didn't even know that. I respect their attempt at a bedroom pop and sort of lo-fi album and dream pop album once again. I do appreciate that, and I commend it, I salute it, but that alongside the production and some really awkward performances from Rick, I just thought it was one of their worst projects, maybe their worst project. But with these new singles leading up to this new album, I thought that they sounded fiery, they sounded definitely like their old selves. Let's chat about it. A lot of this album, I would say, is not bad at all, but kind of safe, Pile doing Pile things, and that's not necessarily bad. Like, It Comes Closer as an intro, this is the most promising start that I could have asked for here. I love the quiet, stripped-down intro. Since I've just listened to so much Pile over the years, I just had that feeling that a big crashing riff is about to come tearing through. It doesn't, but that's not a bad thing. And if I didn't say this earlier, I do want to double down on this. There are few frontmen that I truly love more than Rick McGuire. I think the guy is so great. I love his manic performances. I love his vocals. And this track is a great example of it. This track has everything that a Pile fan could want. It's got the pensive verses. It's got the more tense chorus. It's got drama. It's really twisted at times, but it's also really beautiful. I mean, God, the duality here between the very graceful pianos and the very subtle strings that we get alongside of these ghoulish backing vocals and very twisted, very sharp guitars. It's wild. And while this track didn't progress as I thought it would, that doesn't mean it's a fantastic start. It really is. Loops was one of the first tracks I heard off this album, and ever since I heard it as a single, my reservations on this album kind of faltered. It made me kind of, get back in groove with Pile. Once again, it's very tightly wound post-hardcore that sounds like it could just go right off the rails at any segment, and it's really effective. The chugging riff, the ridiculous drums, the drumming on this album, the percussion is fantastic. I mean, take all of that, wrap it up with some really muddy, just heavy production, and you have just a great Pile sound. It's a great single all around, no complaints. Now with Link Arms, it's very clear that Pile is very much so in their, experimental phase. Rick and company are trying new things. This track is a much more subtle one. And between the vocal effects, the organ uses, and some sound effects as well, this track gets pretty far out. The pensive instrumental though, the way the freaking, God, the patience on this track, the pacing, the way it just keeps rolling on and gets more and more intense, I am pretty shook by it. And I can't remember the last time Pile sounded so tortured. I am really happy that they do, though. This is the kind of risk that I wanted. This is the kind of track that makes me happy. And the final 2 instrumental, very cinematic minutes here give me the chills. Pile very clearly still have a lot to offer. Lowered Rainbow is really great as well. The pounding drums, the pensive instrumental that gets oddly jazzy at times. This is the ticket. This is once again the risk that I was looking for, and it is a big one. This track is far out. There are some weird experiments on here. Rick's vocals are odd, but it seems fluid, it seems right, it seems very Pile at the end of the day, and it just is a really solid track. Now, like I said, Pile are very clearly still in their experimental phase. They're trying new things phase, and that's something I always respect, I salute, I usually enjoy. But the weak moments on this album aren't just iffy at best. They are mother of god awful. Like Garden Hours, I honestly don't have any excuse for this track. This is a sloppy, muddy mess, and I don't have a problem with Pile trying to go for their artsier side. I really don't. I actually think that's where the greater risks are, and they get the best rewards. But then I hear a track like this, and this sounds demo quality. To me, there's always been a real magic in the duality of Pile's music, the very soft lows and the very crashing, crushing highs. That's what I've always shown up to Pile's music for. Then I hear this, and it sounds like amateur hour. I have a lot of the same things to say about Blood. This sounds like demo quality once again, or like a test run that went bad. There are portions of ideas here that I say, okay, I understand that, I get that. But the result at the end of the day just doesn't sound like anything cohesive. It sounds like them messing around in the studio, but not in an exciting way. No, it's much more awkward, and the sort of graceful elements of this track just come off even more awkward. It just doesn't sound complete, and that is saying something for a track that's over 5 minutes. It's patience testing. Really patience testing, and I think it's the worst track here. And Neon Gray... it's not the worst thing here. It's not the worst Pile track I've heard here, but it's very middle of the road. I mean, we're going to get to it, but Nude with the Suitcase late in the album really ties everything about this album up. And I thought it would have been the perfect finale, but then this track kind of shows up and just, I don't know, kind of lulls around. It just misses the mark and it's not very effective. But I'm going to digress because Pile still have a ton to offer. They still have a great sound at the end of the day. They still excite me and they still have a lot to give. Forgetting is absolutely a pressure cooker of a tune. This is a low-key, quiet track that just gets loud and aggressive when you least expect it, especially in the percussion section. Once again, for that alone, this track, this album, I should say, is worth a listen. And I'm shocked by the sheer amount of tension on this track. Every passing second, this track sounds like it's going to explode from every sort of low, intense performance from Rick, from every drum roll, from every crashing riff. It's great. This is the kind of track for me from Pile that just doesn't get old, ever. I love this track. This is one of the best ones here, and the final minute here is just entrancing. And Poisons is just a hardcore burner. It's not my favorite here. I do believe the good outweighs the bad. I'm not a fan of some of the songwriting here. I think it's kind of weak. But it's all about the duality between the pensive verses and this crushing chorus. Like I said, though, they do make up for it with just a big, meaty jam that just sounds like it could explode at any second. And Nude with the Suitcase, it might be the best track here. It's easily the most chaotic and progressive track here. This is the kind of track I love from Pile. It's the kind of track that you don't know what's going to happen from each passing second. It starts off very chaotic. It's got a very artsy instrumental, and Rick's performance is genuinely out there once again. His performances on this album are straight weird at times. But it is one of the wildest, most indescribable, and genuinely progressive tracks here. It makes me so happy. It's moments like this that I'm a Pile fan, and it's moments like this that make Pile who they are. This is a very good album from Pile. This very easily could have been an 8. My biggest issue is they're clearly still in their experimental phase, which I do appreciate and I do salute, but the results are just, God, when they're bad, they are unlistenable and patience testing and really heartbreaking, especially for a long-time fan like me. But outside of that, Pile do Pile things here. They still have a great sound, even though this is their 8th album. It's the chaotic highs, it's the subtle lows, it's a master class of patience testing and pacing and just really great percussion work on here, really great performances, and I still salute the band for who they are. I wish I could give this album an 8, but for now, I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album. It's a very solid album from Pile. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.